Madiha Ahmed. I'm coming up with a series on financial literacy. So, how finance can help you understand human behavior is the topic that we are going to be covering today. So, finance, how is it that it can, help you understand human behavior better? Now, the reason I personally believe in financial literacy and why this expert chat on this topic is because I've realized through my own journey as a woman that financial empowerment plays a huge role in, kind of influencing the world and influencing ourselves, how we turn out as a person and in our professional life. Now, when I started my journey in, in financial empowerment, I think one major problem that, that everyone talks about is money is bad. So, there is always this debate of, rich people being selfish or rich people having, privileges and not having the real ground understanding of, the world and how the world works. And therefore, they have the luxury of their homes. And essentially anything that's privileged and that is associated with money is either looked upon as corruption or looked upon as something with some kind of negativity. And one reason, and it's not the privileged class who really the very well off, the billionaires, the millionaires who think like this. It's the middle class and the lower class who actually thinks like this. And some of the things that I studied from Mind Valley and other sources, I've realized that the more negative that you think about money, the your own like relation to money goes poor. Like so even if let's say you're earning very well, but you don't really like feel happy with what you're earning, or you might always crib about how the economy is bad and all of that. See, there is a reality of the country, there is a reality of a person, and there's a reality of a system which is interrelated. But if you as a person have a very negative mindset about the money being bad and corrupted and evil, and it's difficult to earn money, and the more negative mindset that you have about it, the more difficult you're going to find to have a good association with money and wealth and all of that. Secondly, you have to understand that when we speak of money, most people think, money as only in the sense of income, that, how much can I earn, instead of thinking of the other two aspects, which are, about the expenditure or about, savings or about investment. All these other things are equally important. And I feel somewhere or the other, like, so when we say that, isko to kamane ka bhoot laga hai, typically women are always blamed and guilty of being very ambitious and very like self driven and higher ideals and wanting to be this and wanting to be that. And a lot of times isko to sirf kamane ka pada hai, an empowered woman is looked upon as a threat. So I am going to first cover the female angle to this whole idea of female being financially empowered and therefore being a threat, and all of the other negativity associated. And on the other hand, I'm also going to talk about general human behavior when it comes to finance. So one thing is, a woman who is financially empowered is often looked upon as a threat. She's supposed to be someone who will not agree with most people, or she's not going to be good in relationships, or she's going to be a home breaker, or she's going to have like, a lot of control in the family, either her own or when she gets married to someone. So these are a few threats, that typically people feel towards an empowered woman who is financially empowered. Now, the tendency of more people turning out to be a iska to like typically when parents have a daughter who's financially empowered, again there are so many ideas that people make up. Oh, she may not be listening to her parents at all. Oh, she will do whatever she wants, she'll control the house. There are things associated with that, and sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. So I think general like ideas that people form, and even sometimes women do it against women, which is even more horrible, because at the end of the day, we turn enemies to each other, and in turn result in more conflict at home, at the professional front, and a lot of other things. So let's see, when we say that we are talking of, let's say, human behavior and finance, when I was talking about the earning part, how is it that we look at the behavior of a person when it comes to earning? I think the whole idea shouldn't be like just get the money, get things rolling. You need income. It shouldn't be that. It's about your ability to solve problems. a person who has this idea that I'll be the richest person and I'm going to really make a lot of money and I'm going to be driven on getting an income. All these are good things, but when it this is going to work and this is really going to show results when it's backed by the real intentions of, number one, earning because you are able to add value. Second, earning because you are skilled and you are going to thrive no matter what. And third, there is going to be a lot of good happening to the economy of the country and the world if one person is able to generate income and revenue, and at the end of the day show that business is possible. So business at the end of the day is part one, being a change maker and knowing what problems to solve. And secondly, of course, if you add value, if you solve problems, people are going to pay for it if you really know what you're doing and your stuff well, right? The second thing we need to understand here is that when we look at people who have money, be it investors, be it the companies that we work for, a lot of times we feel, oh, this person has it easy, I need to have my rights, I need to get the pay that I deserve. A lot of times we feel we are separate from the entity that is having the money. If we talk of a company, a lot of times when we as individuals go and approach a company, we feel that we have our rights. I deserve this percentage and this salary because I have invested so much into this, truly, correctly. But at the same time, you have to understand that the other person is not always flowing with money. The other person could have their own challenges, and therefore at times, especially during lockdown, if people have to make some kind of changes or modifications in the payroll or the salary, it is undergoing some change, and that is the time when you have to be either innovative and offer more, and then show that you're worthy of pulling it in the long run. Or at the same time, you could be making some adjustments and looking for side income sources with very clear transparency with the company that you are going to be doing the same, right? The other thing is, when we think of investors, a lot of times, when I was part of these startup pitches and, in colleges and schools, and I mean, the kind of discussions I've had with investors and people who are into funding and investments and all, I think one of the main reasons that I have felt that people are ready to invest in an idea or, to offer their financial support is when they see some honesty, some transparency, and some potential. When I say transparency, it's the ability to even admit failures, that this is what didn't go right, and chances are this will not work even if I get the investment from you. So that shows the confidence of a person, that that person is having the risk taking ability, but also knows the overall picture of what can go wrong, and therefore, be prepared for the worst case scenario, right? The second important thing to understand here is when we speak of the potential part, that a potential is seen in someone who's somebody who's investing in you is going to see what potential you have. Now what I mean here is some sort of track record. I think it's very important that just saying that I have a good story, and now is no offense to any TEDx's, I've done two myself, but at the end of the day, a person feels if they've done a TEDx or they've done a talk show, or been there on some forums and platforms, and they've done some amount of work or some experience of years, that itself is proving enough that they're worthy of an investment. Not true. I think one of the very important things when we say potential is to be actually pinpoint, where things went right, where things went wrong in some past records that you've done. Or, even at times the observation and the information and the application that you have when you are observing the news, when you're observing other things. I think these are very important things to understand, that when we are, observing things and we are able to honestly, critically analyze things rather than go in any extreme of negativity, either in pulling down the person or showing ourselves, all positive and the world being bad and the scenario being bad. So, what I'm talking here is that, we have to understand how human behavior works along these lines when I speak of the investor and when I speak of the employee, the employer and the employee relation. Now, going to the next point, answering the questions where Poonam asks, as a financial analyst, what should I keep in mind while I'm trying to understand a person's behavior in whose firm I'm investing in? See, if you are an investor, one thing to understand here is that, I mean, observe the trends, when you are trying to invest in someone. See behavior patterns of how honestly they try to stay in touch with you, staying updated with you, showing their vulnerabilities, especially if something is going wrong in the economy, if they are showing hope, or are they showing, the worst case scenarios, but at the same time, are they showing their preparation, that they're ready to face it if something goes wrong? Also, it's also about, the ability of the other person, to observe trends and say that, they need more guidance, they need more inputs from your side. At the same time, little updates that happen, they're not willing to kind of hide some statistics, or hide anything, just because of the fear of lack of support or withdrawal of support of any form. See, why I'm telling you all this is because a lot of times, we have to have that mindset where we are ready to kind of have a good balance of a person being confident in a positive and in a negative way. Because see, if you're always prepared with the we like people who are fully confident, we like to invest in people who are very very confident, or who show, like, full confidence of things working out. But at the end of the day, confidence can also kind of backfire, because it can lead to overconfidence or lack of preparation of worst case scenario. See, if you're confident and you know the worst case scenarios, you can be better prepared to deal with a tragedy or a calamity and bounce back stronger than ever. And things will actually work out in your favor, because see, the universe or God, whatever you call it, knows that, you should have that belief and confidence that things will work out. Things will work in the favor. If you're putting in investment, some good results will come. But at the same time, it's also important that we stay in touch with them. We don't get, too overpowering and dominating, because we are the investor in the whole situation. These are things to look at when we speak of investing in someone. Now, Minakshi asks, what exactly does understanding human behavior through finance mean? Very good question. So, Minakshi, what I mean here is, today we speak about morals, values, and ethics. Of course, principles are tested best when you put finance into it. So, let's say, we've always done the best workshops and best, pitching and the best products we've given away, and people have really valued it. But at the end of the day, you know, it shows that, if your work is getting paid, at the end of the day, if people are paying you for something you're doing and something that you're skilled in, it just shows more validation that it has worked, it has a problem solving ability. That's one way to look at it. Your real value comes out when there's a money associated with it. Having said that, there will be situations where money is not a criteria at all, and values and principles play a role. But the majority of the world and majority situations, that's how things are analyzed and at the end of the day respected for. So let's say you're someone who's a beginner, you don't have a family legacy, you don't have that business background, or the kind of background that would earn you respect. But at the end of the day, if you're self-made, you are equally capable of getting that respect from people if you really have that ability, and that confidence radiates, and actually shows that people are paying you for it. So therefore you have a problem solving capacity, you have some worth associated. The other thing, when we say human behavior through finance, what this means is also this, that real, so let's say a person can say that, I am going to stand by this. So family situations, let's say you're someone who's providing for the family, you're supporting the family financially, or supporting anyone financially. At the end of the day, if you withdraw support, does that show that people turn against you? Does it show that behaviors change? What does it show? So these are a few things to keep in mind. Human behavior changes once the money part is cut off from the equation. These things can happen, and therefore it shows that how that money was playing a role into actually making people believe you, trust you, love you, respect you. All of those things are likely to change if and that's true, because that's how the majority world sees money, which is why you need to have a very very balanced and practical approach to money rather than an idealistic one, right? Kaveri asks, why is it important to understand human behavior through finance? Kaveri, it's a very good question. Why is it important? Because see, somewhere or the other, a person, who's, let's say, very, very poor, who has like a very, very low income, you'll see, they'll be even open to doing cheating or any other form of thing, because they just want to get that ultimate, income is their ultimate goal. So they'll do anything to get that income. Or at the end of the day, if you look at it, there are some cases where you'll see that because a fixed salary is promised, people can be doing anything and not doing their role and responsibility, and doing their duty at the end of the day, because the money is already fixed and promised. So see how human behavior is kind of influenced in major ways, Places that we go to, at times we stand in big lines, we do so much, but we don't get our work done because of the laziness on people's part, because of fixed salaries already promised. You know what I'm talking about, different situations. At the same time, there are so many workplaces where people are just wasting time on social media doing other stuff, whereas they are not working, focusing on their work, or even interested in it. It's just another thing to do. Now, what I'm trying to say here is, this is indirectly actually related to money. When a person is going for a job, but at the end of the day, not interested in it, just getting a minimum salary and therefore just getting the work done for the sake of it and doing the bare minimum or as much as possible. And then, having a very negative attitude towards work. See, understand this. We are talking of a generation where more and more people are getting very disinterested in their work. They are planning to, start something of their own because they're not happy with a 9 to 5 job, or they have a lot of complaints against it, or they're going to a workplace but not getting maximum out of it. See, the law of attraction holds true in some capacity, that, what we go through inside is what we get outside, and that gets more and more prominent. We are not always going to get things we like and we love. Things can, go against us, but at the end of the day, we have to know how to navigate through situation. Plus, if we do our work well, if we do our internal stuff well, if we have the ethical principles and behavior and attitude, at the end of the day, things do work out in our favor. So, which is why, we need to change our attitude, the way we look at money, the way we look at earning money, and earning money, because more and more, we have so many job openings in our jobs for her profile. And at the end of the day, people are applying for it. But we also hope and we believe that, those who are applying for these jobs and going for it, you should have that attitude of actually progressing. We know, we all hear stories of workplace culture being, toxic, or against women, and things, not in favor of women and all of that. But at the end of the day, we have to believe in the positive, that if we go for a work culture, if we go for a work requirement where we put in our best, some results, some experience, some lessons and insights will come out of it, right? Another thing is, when we speak of, Sonal asks, how can the relation between behavior and finance help me to be successful in my career? See, when you can understand how trends work, how patterns work, there's something called behavioral finance, where, tendencies and kind of psychology of people becomes apparent in the financial aspects, transaction or economy or all of that. See, these are higher things to think about, which you and I in our everyday life will not need it so much. But what we need to understand is, if we have a good understanding of how money works, how money and human behavior is so closely related, that it's time we don't think it's a taboo or a bad thing to talk about. I think it's very, very easy to even blame the privileged class saying they have it all. Somebody in their generation had to do the hard work, therefore, a certain generation or some generations are bearing the good fruit of it. So nobody had it easy. There was a starting point at some point, right? Rich people are not always bad. They also do the charity, they also give the taxes, and they also, of course, indulge in some corruption. But at the end of the day, there is a different corruption that people who don't have money are also doing to earn it. So it's not, and the same people, when they become rich, chances are they might also indulge in the same corruption. So it's a kind of, a really bad attitude that people have when they say that rich people are this and privileged people are this. And at the same time, the people, we people who think that, we need to earn more, why are we not privileged, we started from scratch. That's also true. There is a separate respect for that. And maybe you will become the starting point of the next generation being privileged, and they'll have to go through something. So it's a good idea to focus on yourself, building your own, empire, and, your own savings and your own life, rather than looking at others and expecting others to kind of, change their behavior or stuff like that. So when I say that, whether you are a person who's going to work somewhere, I think it's equally important to know the kind of people that you're going to meet, who are going to look at money differently, and how they're going to behave with you and how they're going to deal with you accordingly. Secondly, it's equally important to understand that when you're talking of, an employer, so let's say you're someone who's investing or running a company or owning a business, you could be someone who's also thinking, how do I understand, why is it important for me to know how money works and human behavior works? I think it's important because, we get to choose the right kind of people at the end of the day, when we know that, how they look at money and how they are, going to be as a part of a team, and how they are going to be selfless or selfish, or they might have expectations of earning, but at the end of the day, they also know that challenges do exist and they'll make adjustments accordingly. So that's one way to know. Now, Anu asks, What are the ways through which women working in the field of finance can understand human behavior? See, there are three ways to look at it. Is a person focused on only earning and therefore they feel frustrated if something doesn't work out? If that is the tendency, then that person is only money oriented and actually not looking at money as a benefit and an asset. That person is just looking at money in a very very selfish way, which is not going to pay off in the long run. But if a person thinks, okay, this didn't work out, no problem, these statistics failed, no problem, what is the way ahead, what is the plan B, what is the plan C, planning ahead with a worst case scenario preparation, at the same time knowing that something is going to work positively, but also things can go wrong, therefore I'm going to be ready for my next plan, right? Come up with innovative ideas, another revenue stream, another way of looking at it, changing my perspective. That shows how people are going to be work leading to the growth of a company or to the lack of it, right? When Avantika asks what to what extent finance and human behavior are correlated, great way. See, the person's ability, how their psychology is, how their behavior is, at the end of the day will show if they're able to generate revenue for a company or earn for themselves. Now, let me give you an example. Look at the people who are in sales. Some of them do it because there's no other option and they are a salesperson. Some people really enjoy the idea of actually listening to people's problem, doing something for it. People always go back to such a person in the sales, right? Because they're going to help in increasing the revenue of the company, in contributing to growth. So at the end of the day, when we are looking at people and when we say that finance and human behavior are very, very related, I think it holds true that, this person, and also when you understand human psychology, I think, the more you understand human psychology, I think business psychology is not just one aspect, human psychology as in human development, as in, what kind of role it has to play in the way you make money or as a company. So let me give you an example. If a company is dealing with anything to do with women, I think it's a great idea for the people in the team to be trained on women's psychology, how the female gender works, how psychology works across children to adulthood, how things change and how things fluctuate. I think it's very, very powerful and important to understand that. If that is, achieved, if that understanding is achieved, it helps to actually, kind of always keep in mind the psychology at the core of who you are serving, and therefore kind of keep contributing. Same way when we speak of any other business, where let's say industrial psychology of agro businesses, it's important to understand the psychology not just from the aspect of how agriculture works or how agro economy, as in the country India being an agrarian economy, where we are looking at agriculture and farming and all of that as a major source. That itself is not enough. What is also important is understanding how the farmer's family works, how the psychology works, how the things at the lower strata works, how the rural psychology works. I think these are important things to understand. When we understand the human psychology in that way, I think finances go better. You have a better way to look at finances, and therefore, modifying your technique so that it leads to better growth opportunities in financially also. When we speak of, so I gave you example of farmer, I gave you example of women. Let's think of transgenders. A lot of times, or when we speak of doing something for the transgender community or any other section of society which is treated badly and not given their due, I think it's equally important that we understand how they are raised, what kind of social stigmas and problems they go through. A very good idea here is having someone in the team, either as a full time or as a consultant or as a part time, who has gone through real life challenges and overcome it, or dealing with it, and at the same time kind of showing positive results and growth. When you have such people in the team, they give you real insights. It doesn't require a degree, of course, every time. It's more about actually talking to people, getting structured conversations happening. You can say that human behavior and finance. So let's talk about the farming again. Dairy products, people daring dealing with the dairy or the farming, agriculture. I think it's not just enough that you bring somebody to talk and say, "Acha, aap apna dukh bataiye, tell us what you're going through, what challenges you face." That's not enough. You have to have a better informed person who's not a loser problem kind of creator, but rather a person who's forward thinking, who wants to contribute to solutions, to come and be part of those trainings and give you insights all along, what is actually happening. So here, like, see, this is the relation, human psychology, finance is so closely knit that you can't put them aside. But it's just that we don't pay attention to those things. See, one reason I feel that countries abroad, the other countries, US or others, are doing pretty well, or they grow, their companies grow, is because the way they have their techniques at the back end. And I am very privileged, that I got to be part of, social change maker courses on Acumen and many other US based organizations and otherwise, where I learned how their mind works, how finance and business is so closely related to human psychology, and how they keep, people at some point, the best businesses keep people at the core of it, either the customer or the team, that they are building together. So I think these are very important things to keep in mind when we say that, it's everywhere. Finance and human behavior is every business has that important part. But it's just that, we've not focused so much on the training part. And therefore, I, as a individual, felt, because I did work with National Stock Exchange for a year, and we did like almost a year, and we kind of, I went to schools, I spoke about financial literacy with children, and we spread so much awareness of it. And before that, going through my own journey as a woman, like how I was not focused on, actually just doing things for the sake of it and not worrying about, the income that comes or what value I'm adding. But now, when I look at it, even if things don't work out the way I want, I have to, work around things and plan out a way and find a way. Because see, if you know your intentions are good, if you know that, your work and yourself is going to add value to the world, there will be a way which will come out when you kind of go and, surrender on one plan and go for another plan, which is a higher level plan, and, which has more strategies and more work at the back end and the front end, right? Now, Dhwani asks, I'm generally good at judging human behavior. How will understanding same through finance help me get better? Great. See, when you are looking at psychology alone and not looking at the financial aspects of it, what can happen is, you will see, I'm not, see, people who are good at judging other people or making conclusions about other people, judging not in the wrong sense, by the way. When we are saying that we are good at, evaluating other people, analyzing other people, what I'm trying to say is that we have certain things and parameters that we look at, and which is good in daily stuff. But if you want to take your impact to the next level, it's important that you look at it from also a financial aspect, that how does finance play a role in, interpreting behavior and patterns. When you associate and relate it, you will not only be personally successful but also professionally successful. Professionally, not only socially successful but also professionally, financially successful, and, economically, I mean, adding to the economy of the bigger picture of the country or the company at large, right? Amita asks, I am restarter. How will this method help me when I get back to the workplace after a career gap of 4 years? Now, what I'm trying to say here is that when you're saying you're a restarter, and you're saying that, you're going back to place after 4 years, it's a good idea to brush up your some skills on the psychology part and some skills on financial part. Look at courses independently, or if there are courses which will help you understand both together, pick up a MOOC, an online course, or a, watch through modules of experts talking about how finance and psychology and human behavior are related. So when we say human behavior, see, it's two things, sociology and psychology. Okay, it's not one thing. Typically, we think human behavior is psychology, not true. A lot of it is, and also third thing, I'm sorry, I forgot. When we say human behavior, we're talking three things. We're talking first psychology, we're thinking sociology, and we are also saying neuroscience, the way the brain works, the biological aspect of it. Because a lot of times, and now technology is getting more and more integrated with finance also, which is why, that's a separate topic. But I think when we say human behavior, it's three things at the core, and we need to have, the more understanding we have of all three, the better the chances of the way we deal with money and how we look at it, right? And how we grow with it, and how we kind of interact with the whole idea of money and everything to do with money. uh, Samita, how is understanding human behavior through finance different from other ways of understanding human behavior? Very good question. So, say when we think of human behavior through another way, let's say, through values and principles. See, those are very, I'll tell you very honestly, principles and values are things which are more of theory than practical. When you're put into a situation, a principle doesn't work as the way you state it. It has a lot of ifs and buts. It has a lot of, customizing situations, or partly true and partly false and partly confusing and partly sure, kind of status. So it's important to understand that, any situation is never going to be like totally clear. So when we speak of values and principles, it's very easy to say I'm doing it ethically. but ethics to you could mean something else to somebody else. And the way you deal with finance and the way you deal with money, it's going to be like a big time proof of how ethical actually you are. Having said that, I know businesses could say that we've been running for years, we've had to, save taxes and therefore, lie and modify statistics or do stuff. I think, it's at the end of the day a call that you take and why you take it. So let's say if you are a woman who is doing some sacrifices, for the family, taking out a certain share of the income and doing something with it for the good of the family, not in a negative way, because there is a जिसे बोलते हैं ना मजबूरी है या कुछ. See, it all depends at the end of the day, you and your relationship with God and your own relationship with your money. So if you know you're doing it right at your personal end, and therefore if things are still showing, see, this is not to promote corruption or anything, but what I'm saying is at the end of the day, the most successful people are those who know what is it that they are doing. At the end of the day, nothing else matters, because no one else is going to, look at the impact, the world change, the global situation, the real, legacy of the world and the country the same way as you would as an individual. You know your struggles best. So at the end of the day, if there's a call that you have to take in terms of how you use money, how you think of money, be sure that you are mindful of it and you've done it in the right way, and not manipulated statistics. At times I've seen, women in some family situations lie to their family about what they're earning or how they are using it. It's a call you have to take. If you think it's going to make things danger and, kind of result in more harm, then good, by all means hide it. But at the same time, be honest about why you're doing it. If you're doing it for selfish means and just, having a luxurious life or some other knick-knack, here and there reason, I think it's wrong then. So be very clear about what stance you take and why you take about money in front of people. Tanya, the last question is there any course to learn about human behavior through finance in depth? Tanya, there are many courses you will find on different websites, but it's all about, what is the outcome that you're expecting. So a good idea is that you check out, what is the outcome that they're showing, what is the aim of the course, what is the outcome you're going to get from it, what is the learning that you will develop as a result of it. Now understand there are two ways to look at money. First is money is bad, money is good, and money is beneficial. If you say money is bad, you're going to take money away from you and you're going to end up in more and more trouble with money. If you say money is good, chances are you'll be selfish, you'll be greedy, you're going to be thinking about, dreaming about it all the time and not maybe working for it. But when you think money is beneficial to yourself, to your family, to your nation, to the global economy, to the country's economy, then beneficial means you know that it's going to have a benefit to more people than yourself. If you are doing well, if you are earning well, if you are investing well, if you're putting the money in the right places. So that is the way to look at it. Don't think money is bad. Don't think money is good. Think money is beneficial and it's going to add value to people's life. It is going to make lives better, your own and other people and your families and the countries and the world, right? So one important thing to understand here, as I said, is money is beneficial, not good or bad. And therefore, the way you look at money has to undergo a change. And therefore, if you have to earn money for a company, you have to understand that you may not get the full benefit of, the sale that's happening, but at the end of the day, it's going to add benefit to more people's life. And of course, some justice done to you as well. So that's the way to look at it. So I hope you found the expert chat useful. And if you have further questions, please ask us in the comments below. And in case you have any other topics that you would like me to talk about in the future upcoming topics of expert chats, I would love to do the same. So please keep checking out our portal for all the jobs that we are offering for women in technology and so many other fields. Check it out and see, make use of the trainings that we're offering, the expert chats that we're offering. And at the end of the day, all these expert chats is one way to actually understand how human psychology works, how people who are in the game, making things work, and therefore how can you make things work. So this is also an aspect of understanding the human behavior and finance directly, indirectly, which is why Jobs for Her exists, to add value to your life, to empower you, to make you rise not only in your skills but also financially. So I hope this was useful. Thank you so much for watching my expert chat. Look forward to seeing you soon.